Facebook that she sees that?
She gets all the Leafs updates.
Oh.
I don't know how, but she does.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of From the Fourth Line, presented by Offside News. My name's Emma, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Marcie.
Hello.
Hello. We're in a good mood today, despite Tuesday's game.
Yeah, well, I'm in a good mood because I didn't watch a lot of Tuesday's game.
My stream broke after the second period, so I will be honest, did not watch the third.
That was a sign from God.
And I switched over to watching the Sens game and had a very similar viewing experience, but was like the reverse. Because the Sens won 4-0 against Utah. But I guess we will get to that game first, but we do have to talk about Leafs and Tampa before we even talk about the news of today and preview tonight's game. It's a busy show. But yeah, so Toronto and Tampa in Toronto. Stolarz in net versus Vasilevsky. This was a Prime broadcast, and I will say, so Prime did the thing that we talked about where they were showing all the stuff beforehand. I loved that. That was fun. I thought that was way better. That was just and I saw a lot of people that were like, I'm surprised I enjoyed just having the arena on, right? And it is fun. It got us some good moments. You get to see warm-ups, which is, I think, a lot of people, I know maybe not so much for, the casual fan who really only watches the game, but, you're not tuning in 45 minutes before the game if you're a casual fan, right?
You want warmies.
But, yeah, but, I love watching warm-ups. It's, not, I don't want to say favorite part about going to a game, but it's a part of, when I go to a game, I love watching warm-ups because it's a dance. Each guy has their own routine, their own way of doing things, and it works, and it's very cool. And I feel like if you watch enough, I think probably, I guess, beat reporters who go to every game or people who work for teams and get to see every game and things like that probably end up knowing the routines of the players quite often in a way, and it's probably fun to watch that sort of thing and be like, oh, I know at this time this guy does this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
it's just fun.
It's fun.
I always have to get there early.
So I always, yeah. And that's what I love about going to games in Ottawa and Sens games specifically is no matter where your seat is, they invite you to come down to ice level and stand along the boards for warm-ups, which is pretty cool.
Oh.
Even if your seats are up in the 300s, you can come and that's what I do now is I go and I stand and at the glass. And I've had Matthew Nyes give me bombastic side eye. I have this one picture where he's just giving the most brutal side eye, and I was like, okay. And I didn't notice it until I was going back through my pictures, and I was like, wait a minute.
This man.
I'm waiting to like use that as a meme for something.
Yeah, oh, the day you use it is just
gonna be so good. But yeah, like the reason why I bring that up is because on that like extended broadcast at the start, extended pre-show, I don't know what you would call it, but Vasilevsky snowed Morgan Rielly during warm-ups. And it's a little bit funny in the context of what happened in the game.
He will not be doing that again.
Probably not. And it's like I didn't know he did that during warm-ups. Like I don't know if that's a thing that he does like in the same spot every time. Morgan Rielly just like happened to be there at the same time to like be on the receiving end of it, or if like that's something where like Vasilevsky goes out of his way to be like, I'm gonna try and snow a guy on the other team, or if that's just like something where they're like buddies. I don't know how they would be best buddies, but they could be buddies. I can't imagine in what scenario Morgan Rielly is and like Andrei Vasilevsky are like pals.
No.
I can't even think. I'm trying to think of like when they're in the same like room, like, and all I can think about is like All-Star game, but like last year when Morgan Rielly got to go. He went, right? Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Did he? Yeah, he did. I'm
It's been a
gaslighting
long
myself
week.
on this. It's been a long week. It's been a long day at a class at 8:30 this morning. I was watching Slapshot in it, so
Real.
like for the class, not me sitting there while the
Oh.
professor's like doing his lecture, sitting there watching
I
Slapshot.
mean,
We
you'd have been
actually,
real for it either way.
but yeah, no. Connor Timmins also back in the lineup. We will get to that. Mm. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so William Nylander opens the scoring 1-0. I don't have much to say about that goal. Because I don't think because I was writing a midterm.
Yeah.
But but this is the goal that I do want to talk about. Nick Paul, sure. He didn't do anything. But it goes in off of Simon Benoit because he falls and just like slides with the puck into the net.
Mm.
And Anthony Stolarz gives him the bat, and I think even in his post game was like we won the game, like whatever. Like I just let him know like it was fine. Shit
Yeah.
happens. I think he actually did say shit happens, which I'm like, okay. But the thing that I will want to like point off about this is like Stolarz hit his head off the post, and it was so loud on the broadcast because Prime had their like enhanced audio
Mm.
broadcast going on, where it was like they had turned up all the in arena sounds so you could actually hear like you could hear everything, and people were noting they were like crowd sounds louder. And this is when I'm like, you guys, it's taken you guys this long to realize that like broadcast can adjust crowd noises.
Mm.
Guys, let's be so for real. It's taken you this long to figure this out.
Like,
Because
come
the amount
on.
of times I've had to like debate with people, like I think it was literally like it was like a Leaf Sens game that I was at. Like I was at this Leaf Sens game because it was in Ottawa, and I saw someone being like, "Wow, the crowd sounds really like really quiet. Like,
Mm.
some fans they have in Ottawa." And I was like, "Dog, I'm sitting here. It's loud. They probably just have it really quiet on the
Mm.
broadcast."
Yeah.
And so then I got really defensive of like Ottawa Senators fans because I was like, my least favorite thing is like when someone who's like Marcie knows exactly what person I was debating with over this topic. I feel like you
Oh,
can
yeah.
tell when I'm about to like describe things in this context,
Mm.
but it's like my least favorite thing is when someone who is, and I have nothing against people who are fans of multiple teams. I think that's great. I simply just do not have the time for it and do not have the
Mm.
brain space for it. And also, like, born and raised Leaf fan, I have the haterism like runs too deep for me. Like, I'll have soft spots for certain teams because they have just happen to have a lot of players that I like,
Mm.
but I won't say like they're my favorite. Like I am a Leafs fan.
Yeah.
I just yeah. But so like I don't multi-fan whatever, but it's like when you're like a Leafs fan and then you're a fan of like a team in a smaller market, but then you still will like shit on other smaller markets. Like I'm sorry. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
It's like very much, you know what I mean? Where it's
Mm.
like, I don't want to compare this because I feel like this is just going to be an awful comparison that I'm going to get like, it's going to like shoot me in the foot or something for. But it's like when, as like a woman, you like shoot down other women.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like, why? Like,
Like,
what's the need?
what purpose is this? You're basically saying like, I'm not like, you're not like, I'm not other girling hockey teams, essentially.
Mm.
When
Yeah.
like, as a smaller market, you're like, shitting on other smaller market teams
And it's like,
for
why?
like things like arena noises and like attendance and things like that. Because I will shit on the Winnipeg Jets, but for their on ice stuff,
Yeah.
I won't shit on the fan base and like their attendance and whatever because I understand it's a smaller market. Winnipeg is not that big of a city. I live in Ottawa. They're about similar sizes in terms of population, stuff like that. But I
Mm.
will shit on the Winnipeg Jets because I don't like the team. I
Yeah.
don't like the like I won't shit on like their attendance or their how loud the arena is, but
Mm.
I will shit on like I'll shit on the hockey,
Oh,
not
yeah.
everything else, right? You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I'm not saying like oh you can't like hate on other smaller market teams. No, you can do that. Cuz be a hater but like be like a good hater. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Don't be a bad hater, because then
Don't be bad.
Don't be a bad hater, because that just makes you miserable.
That just makes you, no, like literally, like hate in a way, like sports haterism is such a thing where it's like, unless you grew up, like, not grew up, because I feel it is something that you can learn.
Mm.
And I'm not saying you have to grow up watching sports to be able to like unlock how to be a proper hater, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you get this. Like,
Oh,
even
yeah.
though, like, I don't know, like, I see, I've watched a soccer game with your dad, so like, I know what kind of, I know what,
You
like,
know how they get. No, because it's like, I don't even watch that much football.
soccer. We work for a Canadian publication.
I'm sorry, I can't do that to myself. Um, I don't watch a lot of football, but I still hold a grudge against a team that I watched my dad's favorite team lose to, what, 9, 10 years ago? Because I was there. I still hate that team with my entire being. And
Yeah.
I think that was the last football game I ever went to. And I hate them because we lost. And I think
Yeah, like,
that is a level of haterism
yeah,
that
like,
has to be ingrained in you from a young age. Like, you can be a good hater, you can learn to be a hater, but I feel like there's a level of haterism that you have to have instilled in you by your
your
dad
dad.
screaming at the TV every single weekend for 21 years.
Yeah.
That's something that can't be learned. It just
Yeah.
is a part of you.
Yeah. No, because I have watched sports with your dad. It's a fun experience.
Yeah, he misses you. He needs his
I
football
know
buddy
they
back.
he does. Um, but yeah, no, like I was like I, grew up a Leafs fan, which obviously means I hate the Montreal Canadiens with a burning passion.
Yeah.
2021 was a rough year for me because I got my wisdom teeth. No, unrelated. But Leafs lost to Montreal Canadiens in the first round, and at the time, because I was in high school still. Actually, no, I think at this point, like because of the way the season had worked out, because it was the North Division, I
Mm.
had graduated high school by the time this was all happening. Because I think
Congrats.
it was like July, but uh, still living at home with my parents, essentially,
Mm.
is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And my dad, because I've mentioned this on the show all the time, and I mentioned it on Twitter all the time, my dad is a Habs fan. Grew up in Toronto. The only explanation that I have, and the only one that he's ever given me, is that in the 70s, when he was a kid growing up watching hockey, Leafs were bad, Habs good. Habs, so he became a Habs fan.
Mm. I mean, it's fine because in the wise, wise words of Hannah Montana, nobody's perfect. What
But
can I say?
so now you can imagine going through that series and watching that series, having the Leafs lose in game 7 to that disastrous
Mm.
game 7,
Yeah.
and then having the Montreal Canadiens going on to the Stanley Cup final where they would lose to Florida, but Tampa, not Florida, Tampa, the state of Florida, and everything like that. And then, yeah, so it was a really fun time in my house. I will say though, my dad, Leafs hater. If you could, every time I'm home, it's Leafs need to trade Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is a
Yeah.
pylon. And then I get mad at him over the dinner table and start yelling about why should we be trading Mitch Marner when Max Domi is right there.
Mm. And then you send me angry texts about it.
And then my mom gives the look across the table of like, don't stop riling her up. Do you like when she's home? We want to continue her to come home. But he does it. He does it because he can push my buttons that way. So,
Mm.
but but he wasn't saying like anything like malicious, like back in 2021 when like John Tavares got hurt because he got knee to the head by Corey Perry.
Enemy
My
of the
dad
show.
wasn't yeah. Enemy of the show. We have friends of the show, enemy of the show. My dad wasn't like, oh, I'm like so good that your captain got hurt, right? Like he was like, that actually kind of sucks because it's not fun. Like I don't like the people who like wish injuries upon players of like rival teams because for me the best part of like rivalries and stuff is when both teams are able to play at their best. That's when you get like the real good stuff.
That's on the tension. That's like the drama.
But it's like the real good stuff. And that's I like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of like a game somewhat recently that like felt like it was like that really back and forth of like good, like a rivalry. It was just like good hockey from both sides. And it's because that's the most fun to watch as a fan. Is when both teams are playing at their best. But I don't know where I was at with rival. Oh, this is all to loop back with. I really hope Stolarz is like, he doesn't seem to have a concussion. But I will say, hearing like the clang ring out, like I thought, because I thought the puck went off the post first. Yeah. And then I look at the replay. I'm like, no, that wasn't the puck. That was Anthony Stolarz' head. Because you could hear it on the broadcast. Like, go back and watch the goal. You can hear it. You have to look at the Prime broadcast, and not Tampa's broadcast, because it's only the Prime broadcast that had the enhanced audio. But like, you can hear the clang, and I was like, oh god. Yeah. And then I have Austin Matthews power play. That was just a gorgeous goal. It was like Nylander, Marner, Matthews. Gorgeous. This is what we want. I think I even tweeted after this Austin Matthews goal. If it's this one that I'm thinking of, there was one of these goals in here that after I tweeted after it, I was like, this is what I mean by a power play goal. Yeah. And I believe it was Austin Matthews that I tweeted that out. Like, I was like, this is what I spent like 20 minutes on the show talking about the Leafs needing to be doing more. And that was crash the net. And I believe it was the Austin Matthews goal, if I'm not mistaken. Because the William Nylander one was just like a snipe from the top, from like the circle. And I was like, dope, you beat Andrei Vasilevskiy like outright, good for you. But I think it was like, it was the Austin Matthews goal where I was like, okay, slay. This is what I mean. This is what I spent like 15 minutes on the show ranting about, that the Leafs need to do more of, because this is how you beat the good goalies. Now, Andrei Vasilevskiy did not have a good night, because then William Nylander scored another goal. Bobby McMann assist. I said second line so good. I believe, if you want to pull that up, I just want to know, is Bobby McMann at a point per game? I don't know if he is or not. Because I thought last time I checked, I know he was like just under, but like if you just looked at his, even if it's his base count, I could figure out the math. But and then and then Max Pacioretty. Again? You did it again?
It's the return of Booby McMahon.
Oh, people don't know that lore, but like for context, when we were putting out like our blurb of the year graphic last year, Marcie actually accidentally almost gave me the version of it that said Booby McMahon as a typo instead of Bobby McMahon. And so that almost was what went out on our Twitter, and I think that would have been the worst thing in the entire world.
Yeah, it was
But we will be continuing our blurb of the year, but
Oh yeah.
Blurb of the year qualifications, though, are very strict. It is purely because we are from the fourth line. Your bottom six Blorbo. They have to play most of the season in the bottom six and exemplify bottom six Blorbo qualities.
Yeah. None of this, oh, we know what we're doing, top six bullshit.
Yeah. Like, as much as I would love to vote for Quinn Hughes as Blorbo of the Year, he does not fit in the qualities of Blorbo of the Year because he plays on the top pair for the Vancouver Canucks.
That man is not a blobber. He just looks sad.
Yeah.
That's your answer?
That's the qualification that we go. If you wondered what the decision, also it's just us going, who's our favorite guy? Yeah. So it's like our Mark Messier award, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Max Pacioretty 4-1. This is where Vasilevsky gets pulled. But I have here as my note with this goal, thought I'd have to compliment Connor Timmins here because I thought he scored. And I was almost like upset about it because I was like, damn it. I've spent about how many episodes this season and how many episodes last season absolutely shitting on Max Pacioretty. Not Max Pacioretty, Connor Timmins. Also Max Pacioretty.
Yeah,
But
so you do that too.
I do that too. But like I feel slightly better about complimenting Max Pacioretty than I do complimenting Connor Timmins because I spent so long shitting on not like negatively because I don't like, but just because I was like, he's just like not good enough of a hockey player. That's my thing. But he ended up only with a secondary assist on a goal he scored. And I was like very upset that I would have had to start complimenting Connor Timmins here. Because I was like, damn it. I don't want to. Do you have the Bobby McMahon stats?
I was looking and it wasn't happening.
Would you like me to look it up?
Yeah. It's been a long day.
Bobby McMahon. He has 4 points in how many games? Why is this not showing me his games? Dog. Google. Because you know it's like you Google something like on your phone in Safari and then it has the little pop-up at the top for an athlete.
Yeah.
It had that.
6 games.
But then okay, so he's just under a point per game, which is like totally acceptable for like your second line left winger who hasn't fully been playing on the second line this season. And also as well, that second line is still very productive, even if Bobby McMahon is not like assisting directly on the goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
power forward. Line. Keep it up, Bobby.
Good, Bobby.
Keep up the good work. Honestly, underrated fantasy pick. I picked him like the last round of our offside like newsroom league because there was no one left. And I was like, you know what? My team name is a Bobby McMahon pun. It's also one of the episodes of the show titles. I was not very creative. I'll pick Bobby McMahon. It's actually worked out pretty well for me, I will say.
It's worked out really
3 goals, 1 assist. He's got quite a few blocks and he's got quite a few hits as well. Like, hats off to you, Bobby. Yeah, and then I have this is where Vasilevsky gets pulled, and then I tweeted out Max Pacioretty broke Andrei Vasilevsky, which is rare. It is rare to pull Andrei Vasilevsky. John Cooper didn't even like go to Andrei Vasilevsky and be like, "Do you want to get pulled? Should we pull you?" He just was like, "Yoink," and like, pulled Vasil, and everyone lost their minds. If you could have been in because like we in the offside Discord, we like watched the game, all of us like we were watching the game. If you could have been like in that situation, chaos. But yeah, allowed 4 goals on 14 shots before he got pulled, which is not good. That's not Andrei Vasilevsky. It also is key as well for Tampa Bay because they played like Toronto the next day with travel. So now who ended up being their starter for not last night, 2 nights ago, Tuesday, went in and played half the game the day before. Yeah. Which is not what you want. Especially because, like, Jonas Johansson rarely starts a game. Which also as well then led to a very interesting point brought up by Elliot Friedman on his written version of 32 Thoughts that came out last night that I was, like, scrolling through and, like, just reading out. And he said, like, there may be, like, Tampa Bay may be re-examining on their usage of Andrei Vasilevsky and looking to tone down how many games he plays, which is interesting. He, like, keep an eye on Tampa, I guess. Yeah, and then what do I have here? I have Matthew Nyes, 5 to make it 5-1, breakaway, ? Breakaway, ! Matthew Nyes with the breakaway on the feed from Mitch Marner. It was great. It was gorgeous. I was like, beautiful. Look at that. And I think that goal in particular, you can see what we've been saying, I guess, all this season of the show, at least. But like we were especially saying it through the preseason as well, especially then because that was like when this article came out talking about how he was working with a skating coach over the summer. But like his skating is gorgeous. He's a pretty skater. For a big guy, and this is what we've talked about, is like large players aren't necessarily pretty skaters in terms of they just look lumbering and large. Have you ever seen Owen Power skate? Large. Have you ever seen Evgeny Malkin skate? Large. Have you ever seen Justin Hall skate? Like it's like, you know what? Large, right? And they skate in this really particular way because they are so big, right? Whereas Matthew Nyes, he's big. He's the biggest leaf on the team in terms of just like weight. They call him the unit. We jokingly call him a fridge.
Yeah, like that is a big.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy. And he just has this really gorgeous stride that makes him look and appear and move across the ice way lighter than everyone else when he has open ice, which is very rare because, you know, he plays on the top line. It's hard to come by open ice when you're on the top line. And also as well, in the way that he styles his game is very much like goes into the corner, power forward. He is like, you know what I mean? Like he is that net front, get into the dirty spaces kind of guy for that Matthews Marner line. But gorgeous goal by him. Hats off to him. I think that's what, like his third or fourth of the year, I believe. Pay the man. Brad Treliving, sign him the contract. I keep seeing rumors of being like, this is what they should look like. Bridge deal for Matthew Nyes, ? I'm like, we are not doing a bridge deal for Matthew Nyes. And this was a whole rant I had to my radio co-host, Mary, yesterday. Not rant, but so much we had a discussion after the show. We just like stood outside and talked for like 30 minutes. It was great. But it was like, we were talking about this. It's like Matthew Nyes, like you need to sign Matthew Nyes to an 8-year deal. You cannot sign him to, and even if that 8-year deal ends up being high right now, think about like the contracts you're losing off the book. Like John Tavares is not getting paid $11 million next year with the Leafs. Now, if he will still be on the Leafs is what, like, who knows? Who can say? I'm sure he would prefer to stay in Toronto. He has school-age children. He's well established in the city.
He will go where his amulet tells him.
He will go where his... Isn't there a movie where they're guided by an amulet? Like,
definitely.
I definitely probably have seen this or like read up where like the amulet like floats around and stuff. Jesus, this fucking amulet, man. I referenced it on the show and on the radio show yesterday, and I like my co-hosts were like, I'm surprised it took you this long to say anything about the amulet. We were like 45 minutes into the show and I bring up John Tavares' amulet and they're like they were like, I'm surprised you waited this long. I was like, look, I could have said it way earlier, but I chose not to. Because I was like, I can't be doing this. Because it would then we then had to explain the amulet on the show. Because our one of my co-hosts, Patrick, had no idea what John Tavares' amulet was. So we had the joy of explaining it, and the look on his face was the funniest thing in the entire world.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall.
It was so good. He had this like look of disbelief of like, I can't believe this is what you're explaining to me. But yeah, so where was that? Yes, a Matthew Nyes contract. I
pay the man.
Yeah, pay the man. 8-year deal. I know probably like I think people start to like throw around numbers. Now I wouldn't necessarily put him in the $8 million range. Potentially you could sign him for 6? ? Because I know if it's a 2-year bridge deal, you're somewhere in and around like the 3-4 million, like right around where like Joseph Woll is, right? Yeah. If you're doing a 2-3-year bridge deal, if you sign him for 8, you potentially could get him. It'll probably be somewhere around 6-7 million, which is doable, and it also locks down a left winger for Marner and Matthews.
Yeah, which you
need. And this is because this is the problem that the Leafs have found themselves in year after year after year. Like every time we've seen this iteration go on now 3 different times already where we've seen it happen where Michael Bunting, they signed him for a 2-year deal. He plays himself so far, like they signed him for a 2-year deal. Now I wouldn't have given, like when Michael Bunting came to Toronto, I wouldn't have given him any more than what Kyle Dubas did give him, but like he played himself out of Toronto also like there also was like penalty issues and things like that, but like he played himself out of Toronto essentially. He overplayed his contract with Marner and Matthews so that he was able like Leafs could no longer afford him with the cap space that they had. It happened to Zach Hyman. He played out of what he was worth and like what Toronto could afford to pay him. And then there of course was other things as well, like Patrick Marleau's contract is in and around that time as well, and like other deals where you're like, really, why are we doing this? Paid him out of like, but played himself out of Toronto. And then Nazem Kadri also as well played himself out of Toronto. There's more to that. I do know that his book touched on that and touched on his departure from Toronto, and I do really want to read it. And once I do get my hands on it, I will probably go to Indigo sometime this weekend to pick it up. I just haven't had the chance to. I've been busy. It's midterm season. Cut me some slack, but I will have time this weekend to go in and like pick it up and stuff. And read it because I do want to read it. I've heard there's some pretty good like chunks in there and stuff and some good insight, but also as well, but like, you know what I mean? Like we see this time and time again, but like I know Matthew Knies could potentially play himself out of Toronto if you sign him to a bridge deal, just because he'll like they just won't have the cap space for him.
Yeah.
And so
I don't want to see that man anywhere else. You cannot separate him.
You can't take like he is so good and so underrated of a player in terms of just like how good he is, because a lot of people are like, oh, he's good because he's on a line with Marner and Matthews. No. He's good because he's a good player.
Yeah.
And you need you have a guy who works with Marner and Matthews, keep him. I don't know why we're gonna bother looking for someone else in like 2-3 years. Because that's what we're gonna be in, and it's gonna be this and it's going to be this ever continuing way of doing it. And I know for me also as well, personally, I would love to see him eventually down the line, you know, eventually seeing where this team goes, things like that with Marner and Matthews. Because I'm running off these, because I know some people are going to be like, why are you assuming that Marner is going to be here next season? They're obviously going to trade him. I'm going to run on that assumption, because if you take Austin Matthews loses all of his efficiency as a goal scorer when you take Mitch Marner away from him. And people are gonna be like, well, look at their number, like look at their advanced stats, blah blah blah. Like long term, you need a playmaker as efficient and as good and as talented and as like who has this such strong like puck, like hockey IQ and puck sense, that he can read the play to set up Austin Matthews. And that's what Mitch Marner is. And Mitch Marner is still a damn good hockey player, whether or not he's playing with Austin Matthews. Is Austin Matthews as good as he is when he's not playing with someone as high caliber as Mitch Marner in terms of a playmaker? No. And also as well, Austin Matthews could work on Austin Matthews could go more places and have the success that he's having in Toronto than the amount of talented high-end playmakers that you could acquire to replace Mitch Marner and afford and get for cheaper for Austin Matthews to play in Toronto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just keep Mitch Marner. I don't know why we're doing this whole thing where we're keeping Mitch Marner. And I saw someone, that was the thing, is I don't tend to really look at a lot of stats through the season, especially this early on when it's no one's really in the hunt down for anything yet.
Yeah.
Right? It's not oh, let's see where we're at with Mitch Marner's hunt for 100 points or whatever, things like that. And I just saw a tweet where someone was like, oh, Mitch Marner's doing absolutely nothing. We need to get rid of him. He's underperforming. And I was like, hold on. I looked up his stats. He's tied for the lead over the team in terms of points.
Yeah.
He has 1 goal, 6 points over how many games has it been? 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So he's a point per game. It's also October. Guys, be so for real right now. But yeah, so Matthew Knies signed to the contract, but eventually down the road, I do also as well would like to see Matthew Knies for my own personal pleasure, and it's something we did not get in the preseason, is him on a line with Minton Cowan. because that's textbook how you build a line, and it's a kid line. And I love when you put the young guns on a line and just watch them have fun. But because it is, yeah, it's very textbook on how you build a line.
It's like we need the whimsy line.
Get the kid line.
Oh,
We need the kid line. I mean, the New York Rangers had it a couple seasons ago, and it was like fun to watch. At least like that was the perception from like New York Rangers fans. Yeah, so I also have this one as well. Braden Point scores 1 on the power play, 5-2. I just have one that go like, my note on this is, yeah, that's a hard one to stop because it's like Victor Hedman feeding Braden Point. Like, guys, on the power play too, right? Like, even the broadcast was talking about this like just a little bit before this goal happened, being like, when you've got Braden Point and Victor Hedman on the ice together, they're a hard duo to stop because they can just feed it to each other from anywhere and it'll go in. You know what I mean? And then Braden Point scores. I also, as well, we do have to talk about Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but first I do want to say, and then at the end of the game, there was a scrum, like right at the buzzer after the game had ended, and my favorite thing
it was brilliant.
Was they're all whatever, and like Simon Benoit has Cernak just like in his face, like yapping at him, and Simon Benoit just does the like no comment, just like points to the scoreboard, and I was like, yes, that's it.
This diva.
Literally. Oh my god, my favorite is like, I don't know if you've been getting like I don't know if like a couple weeks ago you were getting like all the pledge TikToks.
Yes.
And all of the top comments were just like, who is this diva?
Yeah. Oh.
It's my favorite thing, but like I loved because especially as well, it's like because people were like, oh well, like imagine scoring like an own goal and then pointing up at the scoreboard when someone's in your face after the game's ended. But it works because the Leafs won and it was the end of the game too, right? Like only Simon Benoit could get away with like scoring an own goal and then doing that.
Oh yeah.
Like, but it was so good.
Technically, we got a Benoit goal. Just the wrong
He's
way.
already matched how many goals he scored last season, guys.
Yeah. Ignore which net the goal went in.
Congrats to Simon Benoit for matching his. I will never forget like how hard they were trying to get him that empty netter.
So hard.
It was the funniest thing in the world to watch. Who was it against? Was it against Anaheim?
I think so, yeah.
No. It wasn't against Anaheim. Or was it at home?
Who was
it?
I
just totally dropped my pen. Oopsies. It was right around the Winnipeg game because I was like, oh, Ryan Reeves scored that goal. But I do just have to find it. It doesn't matter. It's whatever. I do remember. I think I wrote it in my notebook in like all caps. But anyways, it doesn't matter. But yeah, and then also as well, what we want to talk about is like how not midway, but like what I think it was like in the third period. I don't know where my pen went, but it doesn't matter. In midway through the third period, Oliver Ekman-Larsson reverse checks Jake Gensel, gets fined $5,000 for it, maximum allowable under the CBA from the Department of Player Safety, and I have feelings about it.
Well, Emma, this is the perfect place for you to express your feelings.
I feel like I sound like a broken record when I talk about the Department of Player Safety and how they choose to go about making their decisions, especially on this podcast. I think we've had the same conversation at least like 6 times.
I like the amount of times in my notes I've just got consistency ?
See, I've changed it up because usually it is consistency ? Department of Department Player Safety doesn't know what consistency is. But this one I have. If this is the standard, then keep it. I'm fine with. And this has always been my gripe with the Department of Player Safety, especially when they do things like against the Toronto Maple Leafs and their players, is if this is the standard that you are setting when it comes to supplemental punishment on in-game actions, I would like this, and you're setting a standard. I would like that standard to be kept. It's a little bit weird that the standard is always being set with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I'm keeping my mouth quiet. We don't have to bring up the emails again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if this is the standard, keep it. That's fine. What I will say and what I tweeted about, which I'm surprised no one was like becoming a reply guy in my comments over this, which I'm very surprised. I was very surprised it didn't come across the page of some Habs fan who was about to just like, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I tweeted out, so good to know that Department of Player Safety thinks that Arbor Xhekaj punching Cedric Pare in the back of the head with no helmet on is the same level as bad as OEL's check on Jake Guentzel, which I will say it's not a clean hit. I will agree with that. I've seen the replay so many times. We talked about this on the radio yesterday. This is just me promoting the radio show where I'm like, guys, listen to me on the radio. I also talk there. But we watched the hit because then we also were talking about Jacob Trouba's elbow on Barron when it was on Tuesday because it was New York versus Montreal. But you know what? So that's what you're telling me by both of them being the maximum allowable fine under the CBA for that action. Okay. All right. If that's what you're telling me, if they're the same level of bad to you, good to know. I will store that in my back pocket. For come January, someone with zero history. A Leaf with zero history, gets like suspended like 5 games. It's like $5,000 to OEL's like whatever. It's morning coffee. It's not that big of a deal. But if this is the standard, then I would like the standard to be kept. Essentially, is what I'm saying. Is what I'm getting at. It's just a little bit. It's a little bit of a coincidence that we're always setting this standard with the Leafs.
Yeah, like why are you not taking literally anything else?
Especially also as well because Oliver Ekman-Larsson, like, he has no history. He also got in-game punishment. He got the 2 minutes for interference. So, and then you're giving him the supplemental punishment, which is leading me into my conversation about why I brought up Jacob Trouba's elbow on this, is because if you didn't watch Tuesday's game, and you very much, I'm sure if you Googled like Jacob Trouba's elbow, it'll come up, especially, or you go versus Montreal, it'll come up. I'm sure you'll get a lot of results on that, but you'll find it eventually. But it was Jacob Trouba went elbow high on Barron Tuesday against Montreal, didn't even get a penalty in the game. That's my thing. And like, especially because it's Jacob Trouba, and this was a conversation that I had, was like, okay, so yes, if you look at it, OEL's hit probably would have been worse. It probably is worse. But Jacob Trouba's elbow didn't, it was so behind the play. Didn't get in-game punishment, like he didn't get penalized for it. And also it's Jacob Trouba, right? Like that's the thing where I'm like, repeat offender. So you know that like when you do suspend him or you do fine him for what he does, he obviously like has not learned. And the only thing he learns is how carefully he can toe the line, right? And he's gotten really good at that. And I know some people have like complicated feelings about Jacob Trouba in a way where he's a very good person off the ice in terms of what he does for his community and mental health organizations and things like that. But like his on ice actions, I don't like him.
No.
Because of his you know what I mean? Like it's like I can't I can't imagine why this is the way that you've decided to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like us and that man's on ice actions are not friends.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on Department of Player Safety. I hate talking about them because I sound like a broken record every time.
But it's not our fault that they keep doing things like this.
True. I just
What it
don't want to
means
keep
to
talking about
talk about it.
But yeah, so Toronto and Columbus Blue Jackets played the next night. It's in Columbus. If you could see our faces right now, I'm just staring at my notes for this game that are very. I didn't even bother writing out the goals for this game.
Yeah, I just kind of
Hildeby. I have Hildeby starts
Mm.
versus a guy I've never heard of. I'm so apology, much respect. Gonna mention her 2 shows in a row, and she's gonna love this because she actually ended up messaging me, yes, being like, I listened to your last podcast. This is Kat. I'm talking about Kat. She's like, I messaged it. You guys made me I was laughing at work. You guys are so funny. Oh my god, I can't believe you mentioned me. Love her. I'll send you. She's so lovely. So lovely. But because because I feel really mean going I don't know who the Columbus Blue Jackets goalie is. I don't. He's in my defense. I looked him up and Terrace. Oh? Yeah. Daniel Tarasov. He's 25, from Russia, has 49 career NHL games.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? So
yeah. It was doomed.
I'd never heard of him before. I'm gonna be so completely honest. I didn't know who he was before this game. And I'm sure there was a lot of Columbus Blue Jackets fans who had no idea who Dennis Hildeby was, because that's who started for the Leafs. And then my next note literally is, simply put, Toronto played like shit. And shit is underlined.
Yeah. I don't even have any notes for it. I just have my little subheading. That's just Leafs got dicked.
No, because I have
that's all I have.
I think Austin Matthews' post-game comments was fantastic for this game and sums up just how bad. Do you know how bad a team has to play for Austin Matthews to use Autobahn in a post-game media availability? Autobahn. He used, and I said, so I put this, I sent this into the offside literature. I'm like, do you know how bad you have to play for Austin Matthews to use Autobahn in a media? And they're like, in what context? And people were so confused. Everyone was like, what context was he using Autobahn in a post game? And I was like, neutral zone, because he used it to describe the neutral zone. He was like, the neutral zone was the Autobahn for them this game. And then Columbus socials put that up on their Instagram story and added an exclamation mark to the quote. And I was like, guys, I don't think he was saying it like he was excited. I don't think he was saying it with exclamation.
Yeah, he wasn't thrilled. he wasn't even
thrilled. I will say,
displeased.
I finally watched Dennis Hildeby's post game this morning. Have you seen it?
Very briefly.
Someone needs to give him a hug. Dennis. I will. So because what I have here is JVR goal, of course.
That was a given.
James Van Riemsdyk, former Leaf. There was 2 former Leafs in this game. JVR and it was a big night for the acronyms.
Huge night for the acronyms.
JVR and also Zach Aston Reese. And I should have known what was going to happen this game, because it was because Zach Aston Reese was playing. It also was a TSN broadcast, which is deep, really, really niche stats lore, where it was if you 2 seasons ago when Zach Aston Reese was on the Toronto Maple Leafs, he had a habit for only really scoring during TSN broadcasts. And to the point where TSN put up a stat and was this, and it was something where it was I think it was, I don't think it was all of his goals, but it definitely was most of his goals were TSN broadcasted games. And of course, he also gets a primary assist on a goal that was very well done, right? Like by Matthew Olivier.
Yeah.
So of course, right? Like it was only gonna happen. I was like,
Mm.
I even tweeted out as well before like the game had really even started. It was like 30 seconds in. I tweeted out, Leafs might as well start this game down to nothing because of JVR and Zach Aston Reese. Clock the goals now. And then like I think it was like a minute and a half later, JVR scored, and I was like, I called it.
Like, here we go.
And it was just bad. It was bad from there. Leafs were very much tired. I also have down here like Nyes and Robertson scored. They were nice goals.
Yeah.
It was good for Nick Robertson to get his first of the year.
Mm.
Nyes again is on a tear. Pay him.
Give the man his money.
Yeah. And that's about all I got.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes no words are better.
Yeah. I have also down here Dennis Hildeby had a bad game. It's his second NHL game. Like, let's be so for real.
You can't be expecting.
And also, yeah, and also as well, Columbus is a hard building because yes, the fans are very passionate, but also like that god awful cannon.
Oh, that
No goalie likes the
that
cannon.
cannon rattles me. And I play on a field.
Yeah, like that's the thing. So it's like, right? Like you have it's not necessarily like he was going into like TD Garden, but like the cannon is a tough go.
The cannon gets you.
The cannon gets you. No goalie likes the cannon. Neither Joseph Woll or Linus Ullmark like the cannon.
No.
Yeah, so it's a second NHL game. But the problem is the team in front of him played like shit. Like they played worse. Dennis Hildeby had a bad like if Dennis Hildeby had like whatever like a bad game and he allows in like it's like the scores like we'll be having a totally different conversation about this if like the Leafs in front of him played like fine defensively and like Dennis Hildeby had a bad game, let in like a couple of bad goals, and we're talking about like a 3-2 game.
Yeah.
Totally different conversation we'd be having. Yeah. But because like the whole team then also played badly in front of him, like then you're just like, okay, like I feel bad for him. Like,
yeah,
there was just so many chances and so many rushes that Blue Jackets were able to get where I was like, what are we doing?
Like how? Yep, how?
And it's like it's also the fact that like even then once the Leafs were down by so much because it was like 4-0 by the end, 3-0 by the end of the first. And like right, like even once the Leafs were down by so much, like they didn't add any grit to their game like you would expect from like Craig Berube, like you know what I mean? Like from a Craig Berube team, like once a team it was they just like weren't there. They had no legs. It was but like I also know as well as like you can't complain about like back to back with travel because so many teams were playing back to backs with travel. Yeah. Especially like like so many like you can't complain like it's the NHL. Teams have back to back with travel. That's like just the part of the schedule. I also especially because they had such a light week last week as well. They only played 2 games last week.
Yeah, it's not.
And I know this week is a big week for them because they play 4. But yeah, I just I also have as well. I don't know if you saw this before you turned the game off because I fully missed the entire third period. But Max Domi punching Fantilli in the back of the head.
I heard about it.
I heard about it and I saw a tweet about it, and then I saw another tweet about it that was about the fact that the Department of Player Safety chose not to they looked into it, but they chose not to do anything about it. And no one ever put the video up, which pisses me off. No, I know like if you're a reporter, you don't necessarily know how to like screen grab a video and you can't exactly screen grab a video, but I'm like surprised that like maybe I'll have a scroll through Tic Tac Tomer's account because maybe he put it up. I didn't like I just would have thought that I would have seen it because I would have had like someone it would have been like one of the top like replies or one of the top quote tweets of like the multiple tweets I saw about You know what I like? Oh, here we go. For roughing off the face off.
Hmm.
Oh, I see it. Okay, I want to see the other angle of that.
Wait, can you send me it?
Yeah, I can send it to you. Um, I would like there's like I'd like because you only see it from like the Blue Jacket side of the face off. I would like to see like the other side because
Oh,
Fantilli like blocks if Domi gets like caught up.
yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that I'm agreeing with Domi's actions. You can't punch a guy in the back of the head, but like I don't know if he got like lifted up and then you know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, so but yeah. I don't know. It's see, how hard is it for someone to link it to this? How hard is it? Why is like I know I probably could have just like looked it up because TikToktober would have had it. Shout out to Ober. Like Ober, he's great. He
Yeah,
gifts
credit.
every single Leafs game and doesn't get paid for it, which is extreme like dedication. And it's great. And we use his stuff all the time when we have to go back and look for highlights and things like that.
Oh yeah. He's my good. Like he
Um,
truly is a single mom who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops.
Yes. Like it's and that was like even a thing where it was like when I was first covering like I can't even really think of like any other teams who have someone like that who just sits and like clips and gifs like every moment. Like even the parts of the game that like the highlight packages that get
Mm.
put up on YouTube miss, right?
Yeah.
So it's just really great. It's like if you miss a goal, like if I want to go back and rewatch a goal, I go back and like I know where to find it and things like that.
Mm.
So, but yeah. Also as well, Pacioretty left the was not going to return for the game after the second period, which we will get to. But overall, just like an absolute stinker of a game, and I think even like so many Leaf fans would like called it. Even when the schedule came out, I think everyone had this game down as a scheduled loss because they saw the schedule. They were like, Leafs have a light week the week before with a lot of time off because of Thanksgiving,
Mm.
and then play Tampa at home, division rival. They're going to win against Tampa and absolutely destroy them. And then they're going to get absolutely blitzed by Columbus back to back with travel against like the team like Columbus, right?
Mm. Like,
But I will say, yeah. And I do think, you know what, Columbus Blue Jackets, like the fans, it was a fun, if you were a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, this was a fun game for you. Your team
oh
played
yeah.
well. The team, like the better team that you were playing against played badly. And so it was just overall a good thing. But yeah, so I don't know. I just, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
situation considered. But yeah, so I have so now we can talk like preview for tonight's game where they'll take on the St. Louis Blues at home, Craig Berube's former team, as well as the starting goaltender for tonight's game's hometown team. Joseph Woll will be
Oh.
making his season debut after being activated from IR tonight against St. Louis Blues at home. He will be going up against Toronto-ish area local. Richmond Hill is not Toronto, but Jordan Binnington. That's the goalie matchup for tonight, which I think I don't like Jordan Binnington for context. I think he's an asshole, but I will say it's a little bit funny, the goalie matchup. Um, but yeah. Fraser Minton also today at Pratt morning skate was skating in an extras gray, which is very hopeful for his return. Now,
Mm.
if this leads into like him playing a couple games with the Leafs, who knows?
Yeah. Please, 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 please. A girl can dream.
who we'll see or not. He'll just get sent back down to the Marlies. We will know. We'll see. It depends on what Craig Bouvet decides to do. I mean, the Leafs don't really have the cap space for him currently, but Dennis Hildeby. So Dennis Hildeby was sent back down to the Marlies for context, which is fine. You saw the video, didn't you? Max Pacioretty also as well is day to day with a lower body injury per Craig Berube. So we will see if he returns. He forgot to wear his amulet. Oopsies. I will say though, this is what happens when you sign a 35-year-old without an Achilles.
Whoa.
I don't even know if it's his ankle or not, or if it's something else. But yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna quote? Sorry, there was just a picture that got posted of Joseph of not a video, a picture, not a picture, a video of Joseph Woll leading the Leafs out for warm-ups. Are you gonna quote tweet it with that picture of him in the Blues jersey?
I'm gonna save that for after we finish recording so I can still concentrate and not be scrolling through trying to find it.
I have it. I sent it to you. Anyways, moving on. So some Frozen Frenzy highlights, because when all 32 games play on one night, we're going to talk about some of the other games that took place. Ottawa shut out Utah, like we mentioned at the top of the show. All 4 goals were scored in the first period. So what I have, if you are aware of like the stuff that's going on with the Delta Center in terms of the fact that there is like a section of seats in which you cannot see half of the visitor's net from, like you can't see the visitor's net if you sit in these seats. So if you sat in those 1,000-ish seats, you may not have seen a single, like you may not have seen a single goal that game, because they were all 4 goals were scored in like the second half of the first period. It was really weird. But Anton Forsberg got the shutout, which is good that they're getting some pretty reliable goaltending from him while Linus Ullmark is still out. Hopefully he makes a return soon. Ottawa plays Vegas tomorrow, and then they play Colorado on the 29th, I believe, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Also as well, Detroit versus New York Islanders, 1-0 Detroit. And Detroit got the win with only 10 shots on net the entire game. That way to go, New York Islanders. Good job, guys. Also as well, Minnesota won over Florida 5-1. Paul Maurice also signed a multi-year extension to continue as head coach of the Florida Panthers that day. Congratulations to Paul Maurice. I do, like, unfortunately, as much as I hate the Florida Panthers, I do like Paul Maurice. I think he's a great coach. And it's like something like this where it's like, I appreciate a good coach in the NHL. So unfortunately, I do have to wish him congratulations, because it's a good thing.
Yeah. I took my glasses off a minute ago and I can't find them. I am rather confused.
Also as well, I don't know if you saw this today.
Fear.
But the Vegas Golden Knights signed defenseman Shea Theodore to a 7-year, $51.975 million extension.
Wow.
So that comes out to an AAV of 7.425. That's a raise that also locks Shea Theodore down till he's 36, which, depending on the trade package, doesn't mean anything. Not the trade package, the trade protection package. I don't know what the trade protection is with this contract. I'm gonna look to see if it is in Puckpedia yet. Because verify if I'm why is Puckpedia verifying that I'm human? I am human. Why are robots looking at Puckpedia?
Can confirm that you are in fact a human.
There is no like there's no clauses yet in it, so maybe it doesn't have a clause. Or maybe the clauses like just haven't come out. We'll see. Because like, signed until he's 36 doesn't mean anything for the Vegas Golden Knights if there's no trade clause. They can
It means
just trade
nothing.
you away. That means absolutely nothing for the Vegas Golden Knights. Signed until he's 36, people are like, oh, that's so surprising that he's not only just signed until he's 33. Guys, they can trade him. He'll turn 33 and it'll be like Leonardo DiCaprio and his girlfriends.
Oh boy.
You liked that one, didn't you?
Yeah. That one made me giggle.
Okay. Well, Leafs game starts in 20 minutes, and I have someone coming over to watch the game with me. So we do have to call it here, unless you have something to add.
No, I don't actually.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Monday to discuss this game, again, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as well as Saturday's game against Boston. In Boston. The look on my face right now is actually just like pure stress, because then guess who they play next on Monday?
Oh no, hit me.
Winnipeg Jets. In Winnipeg.
Oh, I'm not strong enough for this.
I love hockey. Hockey was the choice. But yeah, so with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Form the Fourth Line, presented by Offside News. You can find Offside News on all social media platforms at Offside News Co. You can also find more articles written, as well as some fun, their other podcast, 5 Minutes for Yapping, which is putting out mini-sodes on I think on a weekly basis, I believe is the plan, about each episode of Amazon's series NHL Face Off, which
Fun.
they're really funny. I listened to the Leafs one with Randy that got recorded on Tuesday after we recorded with her. And I was driving when I did it, and that was a mistake. When I listened to it, I nearly had to pull over. I was laughing so hard.
Oh dear.
So I highly recommend you go listen to it.
Don't drive and listen to funny podcasts.
So, no, but we want the people to listen to us.
Yeah, but if they do it whilst they're driving, crash the car and die, then
no more listeners.
No more listeners.
Anyways, you can find more Offside News articles and content from them at offsidenewsco.com. You can find more from the show on Twitter at From the Fourth Line. That's fourth with the number 4th. And anywhere you get your podcasts. You can follow Marcie and I on Twitter at 60 Leafs for Marcie, at PairB1 for myself. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back on Monday with another episode. As always, go Leafs go.
Go Leafs go.
All right.